freedom to speak, or so his first name must suggest, former President Uhuru Kenyatta burst onto the public scene earlier in the week with a blistering appraisal of his successor, President William Ruto, whom he accuses of crushing the health sector. His Linda Mama, Uhuru said, was better than Ruto's Linda Jamii. Then the former president threw salvos on a wide range of issues of governance, including what he says was a turning of state security instruments against Kenyan citizens. In response, President Ruto fired back that his Linda Jamii was better than Uhuru's Linda Mama. So it's Linda and leaders in the ring coming up. On the other side of the ring, the united opposition is seemingly working hard on the united part. But they're still approaching united from both ends of the word. Some sticking together on one end with the launch of Martha Karua's presidential bid, while another was quietly paraded on the other end of the letter by a former president. United, but at which letter of the word? We cross the T's and dot the I's as we explore the united in the opposition. Later in our final words, Bonya's Bone will break bones with the county government of Kiambu and its governor for the most reckless handling of the doctors' strike. Sam Sense will be striving to find the sense separating Linda Jamii from Linda Mama. Jamila's memo revisits benchmarking tours by our leaders. What do they ever learn? Kaikai's kicker kicks hard against the competition between construction of affordable housing and construction of state lodges. And on my take, I'll take you to Singapore. No, not that one. Next door. See you in Singapore. The gang is here.
Many of the gains we had in the past have been eroded. Linda Mama and others replaced by new, untried, untested schemes. And while we wait for these experiments to work, Kenyans suffer and our progress is retarded.
The hashtag is NewsGang at Citizen TV Kenya, at Yvonne Okwara. The text line, okay, at Yvonne Okwara, sorry, that's usually Tuesdays. At Yvonne Okwara. Now, in the spirit of fairness,
yes.
At Yvonne Okwara.
At Sam Gituku.
At J. Bonyo.
At Jamila Mohammed.
No, at Yvonne Okwara, you are the spokesperson.
Well, okay, I will take that. Spokes here. So send that feedback in to 22422, and as the Spokes, I've delegated that SMS line to Sam Gituku, who will be taking a look at your text messages. And it is with the delegated duties that we begin. So, Sam, I want us to take it from the numbers that you had, earlier, about this, and we'll get into the back and forth, because it was one person who made these comments, but the responses on the other side were from the presidency, deputy presidency, cabinet secretaries, politicians, all the way down. These are numbers, and there's politics around it. We will get to that. But some interesting numbers that you presented earlier on your data point this evening.
Right. Of course, the big conversation about what was supposed to be Linda Mama, what's supposed to be Linda Jamii. And you realize that in both contexts, they are informal titles of programs. Because even when the government of, or the administration of Uhuru Kenyatta was introducing the term Linda Mama, I think it was about 2016, it was still not the formal name of the program, because the program was free maternity care. Yeah. So for starters, there is nothing called free maternity care today, as per the government of Kenya and the services that it's offering. So Linda Mama, on the angle of free maternity care no longer exists. Now, we've been told about Linda Jamii, which is obviously the understanding that now the government is working towards implementing the universal health coverage that covers every other person in the country. Of course, with the 4 laws that were passed back in 2023, if I'm not mistaken, then gives birth to the different funds that we have. There are 3 of them. There's the primary health care fund, there's the social health insurance fund, and there's the one on emergency, chronic and critical illnesses fund that also has an allocation for persons who would exhaust SHIF allocations, especially because of critical illnesses or chronic illnesses. Chronic obviously being that you will require long-term medication and care. So then, for the government to talk about Linda Jamii, it is okay, but when you look at the numbers, they're not necessarily supported to the extent that you'd expect that everyone else is catered for. So yes, we can talk about free maternal care, which like in our earlier segment, we got to the point that it doesn't exactly exist. Because what exists is antenatal clinics and perhaps postnatal clinics, which is a primary health care concern, which you can go and get attended to at a level 2 or level 3 hospital, which are the hospitals that are covered by the primary healthcare fund in Kenya. But at the same time, if you look at the SHIF packages, or sorry, the SHA packages, you'll find that they're supposed to be normal delivery, valued at 10,000 shillings, and cesarean section in select level 3 hospitals still under primary health care fund. The free primary health care fund, understandably, based on the explanations from the government, this is the Minister of Health as well as President William Ruto, once you register with SHA as a member, then you qualify to get the primary health attendance at any facility of level 2 and 3. But the practicality, the reality on the ground is that if you go to a level 3 hospital, you want a cesarean section, you'll be asked, where's your SHIF contribution? And you know how it goes. They check your eligibility. If you're an employee, meaning you earn a monthly income, it has to be remitted and updated by the 9th of every month. Otherwise, on the 10th, you will not be eligible to get such kind of service. For persons that are not salaried monthly, you have gone through means testing instrument, which is within the system of the Ministry of Health, or SHA, then you're supposed to make a contribution, which is annual. So if the assessment is that you should pay 500 shillings per month, in a year that is 6,000 shillings. If you go to such a facility and you're required to have SHIF and you have not made your contribution for the full year, then you do not qualify. That's the practical sense. And therefore, if that is the situation, even that which is supposed to be free maternal care at a level 3 hospital to members registered with SHA, but not contributing under SHIF, you will not access it. So there has been that difficulty, and you find that many providers are talking about that if you go to that facility, they have to check your eligibility under SHIF. So then, the free maternal care is gone. We were talking about, initially it was, when it existed, it was an average of about 4.1 billion shillings every year, supporting close to 1 million patients or mothers. And these are figures from the government anyway, National Treasury. So that does not exist. The other concern that is no longer existent, if it's about Linda Jamii, it is the amount of money that was being allocated for these people with severe disability, the orphans and the elderly that would require support to buy medical insurance. So consistently, the allocation used to be 1.8 billion shillings, 1.7 billion shillings. Then it started to decline to about 861 million shillings, which is a reduction by half in the financial year ending June this year. And then now we are talking about 430 million shillings for the current financial year, starting July to June next year. So 430 million shillings as the amount allocated for medical insurance for the category I've described. Ideally, this should be the resources allocated to indigents, which is a creation of the 4 laws that were passed by Parliament. In essence, then, because the least you can contribute is 300 shillings under the current arrangement for SHIF, if you do the math, 430, Jamila, you're good at math, 430 million shillings divided by 300, I think you get about 358,000 households, right? Because a household has an average of 4. So you multiply that, you'll get the figure. So still, the resources are reduced. So jamii ambayo ilikuwa inalindwa by 1.8 billion shillings contribution to medical insurance is no longer being protected. And perhaps this may begin to explain. Recently, there was an event at State House where the government said you were paying shift contributions to several Kenyans. I think it was about over 500,000 households, coming to about 2 million Kenyans. They're making those contributions, but also inviting corporates and philanthropists to come and make contributions to support Kenyans. Why? Because the budget has reduced. So Linda Mama aside, it's gone. Linda Jamii, not necessarily Tuna Linda Jamii, because again, the other figure that I spoke about was 13 billion shillings meant for primary health care. In the analysis of SHIF, and the ministry, every Kenyan is assigned 900 shillings for primary health care, including yourself, Yvonne. So if we are, again, 50 million Kenyans, we should at least be allocating 45 billion shillings. The figure during those discussions was supposed to be 50 billion shillings to the primary healthcare fund so that you can sort out everyone else to even go to public facilities or whichever facilities that are accredited to offer primary healthcare. So to allocate 13 billion shillings versus 45 billion shillings, that's like what? Less than a quarter?
A quarter, yeah.
Yvonne, what Gituku is talking about and how he has explained it so well, thank you, Gituku. In my opinion, makes me ask the question that I did before when we were talking, that what was the essence of overhauling the whole system, the health insurance system, from NHIF to SHIF? Because it should be, one, to ensure that people have affordable healthcare for all. But the way it's looking, it's become more complicated compared to how things were before. Because you have all these things that Gituku talking about, and you say there's no free maternal care, it's gone. Linda Jamii is not working the way it's supposed to be. The money allocated really was supposed to have been allocated, has not been allocated. We've seen instances of hospitals being shut down because of fictitious claims or plans to defraud SHIF. We had a story the other day, and the people are talking about in Kisii, but one of the oldest hospitals that they had now had been closed because of these claims, and people wondering how they're going to get service. So it doesn't answer the question of what was this supposed to do? Because sababu kama haisaidii watu, why make this whole overhaul, change everything, have this whole system, the billions one, the digital one, that raised a lot of questions, when people are not getting the care that they need. If you're unable to go to the hospital and get services because, one, maybe you've been unable to pay the yearly contribution, as you say, maybe 6,000 shillings pengine hauna, or if you've gone there and you're an employee on 10th and the amount has not been remitted and you're unable to get service, but really, it doesn't make any sense to me that watu wapati huduma ambao wanapasa kupata. So why did we change things in the first place? It really just does not make sense.
Yeah, I want us to listen to the president responding to what the former president had to say. Let's start with his response to former President Uhuru Kenyatta on Linda Mama.
We should be a bit magnanimous to him. He did time, led our country. And the Linda Mama program was a great program. We developed it under the Jubilee administration, under the leadership of President Uhuru. We learned a lot from the Linda Mama program. And because of the experiences, because of the lessons learned from the Linda Mama program, we designed the Linda Jamii program, which was an improvement from the Linda Mama program. So Linda Mama was good. Linda Jamii is obviously better.
And then the president went on to list some of the benefits under that program.
It is an improvement from what it was in terms of the scope, from just delivery of mothers, which was the primary target of Linda Mama. We've now improved it to cover prenatal, before the delivery, postnatal, the delivery itself, postnatal, and it's no longer targeting Mama. It is targeting Jamii, Mama plus the children plus the household. The figures have also increased in terms of benefits. Actually, the figures have doubled from 2,000, between 2,000 and 2,500 to now 10,000 to 30,000. So we have enhanced the program, but we must accept that we learned the lessons from Linda Mama. That's why we designed a better Linda Jamii program.
So there is a defense with him giving the figures for Linda Jamii. That is President William Ruto on the same. So
there's a mistake there.
Yes, I wanted to. I was actually coming back to.
Yeah, because
sorry, just allow me. It's the battle of the data points. All right, now. So give us your numbers.
Yeah, because the president is talking about it's an improvement from 2,500. No, it's not. Normal delivery at level 2-3 hospital was supposed to be 3,500 shillings. At a level 4 to 6 was supposed to be 6,000 shillings. The cesarean section was supposed to be between 10,000 shillings and 17,000 shillings, where 10,000 is for lower levels of hospitals, 17,000 at higher hospitals. But yes, he's spot on what the current regime offers, because it's 10,000 shillings for normal delivery and 30,000 shillings for cesarean section.
Yeah, here we are, Jay. So the former president versus the current president on such a key pillar as health cover, particularly for mothers.
There would have been no debate or discussion around what is better or who offered what better, simply because what we have currently has got so many moving parts. And even if you ask the best of the best in the medical field, they can't pinpoint to what exactly do we have, what it offers, and where. And I think this is the first thing that the William Ruto administration must acknowledge, that 1 year later, why there's these debates and all these questions around this program is simply because, one, there was no buy-in. And the reason why there was no buy-in is simply because people do not understand the concept and the process. Only a few people who perhaps are seated, I don't think they're even seated at the Ministry of Health. They're somewhere in State House. They're the people who understand these things better and how it works. And over the last 12 months, it is clearly evident that the Kenyan person that is being said to be the primary beneficiary of this does not understand. And how do you then deal with this? You deal with this by acknowledging that the population truly do not understand what this is. And that is why you find people who say, it worked for me. Then you ask them, how did it work? Then they say, I don't know. I just said I'm registered, and I was told my bills were taken care of. For NHIF, it was very clear that if I go to hospital, then whatever service I'm going to get, this is what NHIF would take care of, and this is what I'd pay on my own. So those are the building blocks of ensuring that such a huge and money-draining concept is understood and there is buy-in. But I see a feeling where it is all kifua. It has to work by any means necessary. That if you raise concerns, then you are against it. That if you ask questions, then chances are you feel either jilted or something.
Or privileged.
Or privileged, yes. Yeah. So I think the way NHIF, because these same teething problems, I remember very well in the early 90s, around 1992, 1993, when NHIF came into being. They're all there. But it took time for it to work. So the government must acknowledge that with such a humongous project, these teething problems are there, and they will continue to be there. However, they must acknowledge also that the process of understanding it should be left to what LK was earlier saying, people who know, understand, as opposed to pitching for it in political podiums.
Right.
Because then we take it politically and we deal with it politically.
Yeah. In fact, I want us to now listen to the Cabinet Secretary in charge of health, who then now brought in the issues that you're talking about, NHIF now, I mean, NHIF then versus Shah today, and directly responding to the former president.
Don't listen to naysayers. But because I'm giving information, they left us with 30 billion fictitious NHIF debt. Out of that debt, Linda Mama debt under NHIF inpatient was 4.8 billion. Outpatient was 306 million. In total, my good friend, my former leader, you have left us with 5.6 billion Linda Mama. You should thank us. We did not look for the money. We did not went to public liars and said you left us. You left us with the money debt. But today, because you started it, Linda Mama left a debt with us, Your Excellency.
So it's also interesting about who's saying this.
Oh, yes.
There's a saying in Kiswahili, shilingi moja kwa ya pili.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
1 shilling.
No.
Or another.
Or like this.
No.
No, I'm just trying to understand. Oh, yes. Oh, okay. That's what it means. Okay, I was today years old.
Nakifanya Kiswahili.
Had to learn.
Nakifanya sana.
But I think what I find fascinating is the man who is speaking. Because up until 2020, he was the leader of majority in the National Assembly. This is the house that allocates resources. It is the house that allocated resources to free maternity care from 2013, then converted to Linda Mama from 2016. He was there. This is the house of oversight. If there were pending bills, they would know. If there were fictitious payments, as he says, Parliament would know. Exactly. He was there. Now, at the same time, he was there
as majority leader.
Leader of majority. Yes. He had the president's ear.
Yeah.
And of course the deputy president then, who is now the president. At the same time, who was the last cabinet secretary for health under President Uhuru Kenyatta?
Mutahi Kagwe.
His name is Mutahi Kagwe. Where is he today? He sits in cabinet with Aden Duale. Where's his office? Aden Duale goes to the office, Afya House. Mutahi Kagwe goes to the office, Kilimo House. They are neighbors. They can actually share parking. Park your car, have a chat over the parking area. Then each of you branches to their own side of the office. Now, it is pretty interesting that it's getting here because I don't really think it's about the challenges of administering this fund that is at play here. It is just about political scores being settled. Because you recall that in 2020, the year 2020, that's when Aden Duale ceased being the leader of majority, and of course now branched out to go and lead the path on how William Ruto was going to become president. At that time, the relations between the president and his deputy was so broken to an extent that what we witnessed in the campaign trail, you clearly remember what it was. So really, I don't know if Kenyans should take seriously the accusations going on fictitious debts. Remember, there's also a question that if there were 30 billion worth of debts, and there has been this line being repeated by the political class, 30 billion shillings debt of NHIF after 60 years, and up until recently, there were close to 40 billion shillings worth of pending payouts from Shah in its first anniversary. And by the way, that was yesterday.
Yeah.
Shah is one.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you left us with debt. Linus, who is you and who is us? Because you is him plus them. Us is, again...
Us with us.
So what's going on here? Who's addressing who?
We are you.
Are you with us?
Are you me? Are we you?
Are we us?
Are we us?
Yes, I'm with us. I think Sam has put it aptly. And I can only add by saying what we have is actually the third term of the Jubilee administration that started in 2013. It's always interesting to see politicians changing jerseys and pretending that they have nothing to do with the past. President William Ruto himself, as deputy president, used to tell the media, if anything goes wrong, ask me and ask. Yes. Meaning, Linda Mama and Linda Jamii can actually be resolved through a phone call privately, especially when it comes to differences. But we should see what this is all about. It is about politics. It's about the broken relations between the current president and the former president. This is an eruption of fresh clashes, if I can call it that, because there seemed to be some truce since that visit to Ichaweri, but something seems to have changed. What, of course, has changed is talk of 2027 is starting to gain momentum. And let's remember where the former president spoke. He spoke at his party's National Delegates Conference, where he did something else without saying it. He paraded a silent, can we call him a candidate? His former Interior CS was seated there. Obviously, there was a message being sent here with regard to the 2027 election. So even this idea of saying this government has done this, and I just want us to listen to the former president expanding the scope of the attack. It wasn't just about health. Yeah. It was also about kuzungushwa, kusumbuliwa. I think Monica can take us there.
Tumezungushwa. Tumezungushwa. Tumezungushwa na kusumbuliwa. Wachache wamelipwa. Wengine wamejiita wakuu. Lakini hakuna mkuu kushinda Mwenyezi Mungu, na tumejiona tukiwa hapa.
Right. He also had a few things to say about the judiciary. Let's listen to him.
That we also face challenges. Key among them being our war against corruption in government that was less than successful. Our intergovernment relations also left much to be desired. A case in point being the uneasy relationship with the judiciary over the appointment of judges. To my mind, the framers of our Constitution intended that the different arms of government will be simultaneously independent, but always interdependent, for the common good of our people and nation. It was never our intention to deny them their independence or to interfere with their operations.
It was a blistering appraisal of his successor, and he went all the way to saying, without exactly stating it, that he was questioning the broad-based arrangement. And let's listen to him talking about the president working with former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
We worked as a party to bring greater cohesion in our social construct, to reduce ethnic tensions and address both social and regional inequalities. This noble effort, unfortunately, was used against us in the last campaigns, it being called an attempt to erode democracy. I wonder what they call theirs today.
So there was a handshake, BBI, and then there is broad-based. Right now, he's saying, what is the difference? It's a bit another political version of Linda Mama and Linda Jamii.
This is better.
Yeah. And now they went for politics. And you can see some the politicians and political reactions now started coming in, and no one is talking about Linda Mama, Linda Jamii. They went straight to politics. I want us to listen to Oscar Sudi.
I think we have the reactions from the Kenya Kwanza leaders.
Yep.
It's 1.8.
Hiyo Linda Mama ambayo ilikuwa inachunga mambo ya wamama wajawazito, sasa tumeipanua kupitia SHA. Sio Linda Mama pekee, inalinda mama, inalinda mzee, inalinda kijana.
The truth is, I am sure deep in your heart, you are shocked that William Ruto has managed to stabilize the economy of this country.
Uliogopa maneno ya housing, uliogopa hii maneno yote, kubadilisha maneno ya masomo nini, sasa inakusumbua kichwa, unaona mwingine anafanya.
Wewe nenda kimya, wacha Kenya iende mbele.
We have not told Kenyans you are the problem. Tulikuwa tunajaribu kulipa madeni ambayo wewe ulikopa.
You are a part and a parcel of the mess that Kenya is undergoing. You cannot run away.
We expect that those who call themselves the opposition can point out the kind of issues that the former president was made to talk about, but not to have the president himself, the former president himself, dragged into partisan politics.
So you can see exactly where everyone stands, and you can see right there when Gladys Wanga, the governor for Homa Bay, speaks, the broad-based element in the government response to former President Uhuru Kenyatta. But this is all it was about. It's about 2027. And I just want us to listen to former President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2.1 talking about fielding candidates in 2027, which is the crux of the whole matter.
We shall be preparing for the next general election, and doing so in earnest. And it remains our firm intention to field the best possible candidates for all elective positions. We shall either do this on our own, or we shall do this in concert with like-minded political movements.
So like-minded political movements. And without saying it again, I think what President Uhuru Kenyatta, former President Uhuru Kenyatta is saying is he'll not be on the same side as President William Ruto come the next election. But this is Kenya. It's 2 years to the elections. This is our first reading of what went on at that Jubilee conference.
Yvonne, I was just thinking about how when this government took over, there was a lot that was said about what was wrong with the previous regime. President Uhuru Kenyatta was blamed for a lot of things. From the first day when the president and his deputy then was sworn in, that this went wrong because of this, we are here, we are going to fix things, almost making people forget that William Ruto was the deputy president for 10 years. And people actually, I think, kind of forgot. So when he was speaking, he was talking about like Wimisikwa, you know, all these things we're blaming Uhuru Kenyatta. And Uhuru Kenyatta, I think, did not have anything to hakuwa na kitu ya kulalamikia about. He had nothing to say about them in the beginning. I remember he came out to speak when remember, and there were things that happened in the beginning, Yvonne. For instance, when his farm was raided in March 2023 and his sheep was stolen. Remember that incident? It was during the Azimio protest and people raided the farm. 1,500 sheep was stolen. And then tunaka kidogo in July 2023, former President Uhuru Kenyatta's son's home was raided by people who are said to have been police officers. And then a few days before that, I think on July 18th, the security for his mother, former First Lady Mama Nginya, was withdrawn. So I remember former President Uhuru Kenyatta speaking outside the home of his son, saying, come for me. Yeah. Don't come after my family. Leave my son alone. Leave my mother alone. And that's when he was speaking out. But then now, this is 3 years later. And he has things to say about this regime. He can actually point out and say, well, Linda Mama was better, Linda Jamii is not working, this is not working, this is not working, because now akona kitu cha kusema. I'd like us to listen to President talking about 1.1, what he said, kazi yetu ililenga kila kona ya nchi. He was talking about the things that they did when he was in power.
many of the gains we had in the past have been eroded. Linda Mama and others replaced by new, untried, untested schemes. And while we wait for these experiments to work, Kenyans suffer and our progress is retarded. Na nyinyi mnajua hata kazi ambazo tulikuwa tukifanya wakati tulikuwa na nafasi ya uongozi wa taifa hili letu la Kenya lilikuwa linalenga kila kona ya jamhuri yetu ya Kenya. Hakuna pahali ambapo hatukujenga mabarabara. Hakuna pahali ambapo hatukuweka stima. Hakuna pahali ambapo watoto walikuwa wanasemekana wamekosa kuenda shule kwa sababu hawana karo. Watoto wetu wote, primary na secondary, walikuwa wanasoma kila pahali Kenya hii yetu.
He has something to say now. Anasema wakati wangu this worked, this worked, this worked, this worked. Yeah, pointing at finger at what seems not to be working with this regime. So he's no longer on the receiving end peke yake. He's actually able to dish out something because there are things that are actually not going as planned with this regime. And I think that's basically why we are hearing him speak. And I think going forward, maybe we may hear him speak a bit more, poking holes or pointing out those things that he seems to think are not working as they should.
And indeed, yes.
It is a rather unfortunate situation that Kenyans have to be subjected to, because the work of defending the work was during the tenure when President Kenyatta and Deputy President Ruto served. That's the time they needed to make the communication, convince Kenyans of what exactly we are doing, that this is so good, this is succeeding. That was the time. Because we risk suffering revisionist tendencies. Because life wasn't perfect during that tenure, 2013 to 2022 June. Or no, it wasn't June, it was September. There were challenges. You recall there were many strikes that we covered of teachers. If you remember the former Secretary General Wilson Sossion, there was the strike of more than 100, I think it was 105 or thereabouts.
Yeah.
There's a time county governments had threatened to shut down because of delayed disbursements of resources. There are times schools were late to receive capitation. And indeed, there were several strikes from even the universities themselves. And there are times help disbursements were late. So government is not necessarily efficient, and especially when it comes to getting down to business. And of course, the situation we are in currently, because government is, what is that game where you pass on the baton? Really?
Really?
And I think even President Kenyatta described it once when he appeared at the Bomas of Kenya, when he was throwing something at the former deputy president. So you receive 1.79 trillion shillings worth of debt from President Mwai Kibaki, and you come in and you accumulate so much debt with a lot of justification.
Grow it.
Yeah. You grow it, indeed. There was a revision of the economy, rebasing of the economy. I think that was in 2014 when we became a lower middle income country, and therefore that meant a lot for us to even access more debt from foreign countries or foreign systems. And in tow was William Ruto to defend why we were taking debt. And I remember President Kenyatta, one of the Christmas breaks, telling journalists in Mombasa at the time, funny how one of my colleagues was there, Hussein Mohammed, you know how he works today. And he was saying that he was taking all that debt because the value of debt is what it does. That you can actually take more than 100% of the GDP of debt as long as you can show results for it. He even gave examples of Japan. And at the time there was a push that you needed to disclose the SGR contract. And he said, just come, I'll get it for you. We didn't. So it was not all rosy. The point here is that governments come, they have a manifesto, they have a plan because they have promised a lot of things to the public. Some of them, most of them which are unachievable. It's a lot of promising that which you cannot deliver. life becomes more expensive. Indeed, even in the next election in 2027, there will be many promises. Life will become more expensive in 2028. We must be prepared for that.
Yep.
But I think people need to define their legacies when they are serving. Revisionist tendencies may not work in the fullness of time.
Indeed. Many remember Eurobond. You remember how we couldn't account for it, and that money went into budgetary support for projects that we couldn't. The SGR, the debt, the cost of building that SGR that was inflated how many times? Almost 3 times. And remember, when did that debt become, when were we to start paying for the principal? 10 years later, right? In 2025. So let's be very clear. The debt situation we find ourselves in was the making of 2 people.
Uhuru.
Exactly, Uhuru. And President William Ruto then said, if there is any question about debt,
come and ask me.
Ask me. So here we are now. In hindsight, you know, that vision is 2020. So, and I see a lot of that on social media, that life was better under, that things were different. And I think just to sum it up, like Alina said, this is 3rd term of the Jubilee administration. Jay, as we take a break.
Thank you. I think the question then would be, why does Uhuru Kenyatta find his voice now? Why not immediately after William Ruto took over the presidency? And it takes me back to one time when Francis Atwoli said that Uhuru Kenyatta is too young to retire.
Munataka aende wapi?
Munataka aende wapi? And I think these are the things he was speaking about. That once you've retired as a president, like Sam rightfully says, your legacy ought to have been defined then. But again, we must also remember that Uhuru Kenyatta has spent the last 2.5 years of this administration fighting for Jubilee. He didn't have it up to until Rigathi Gachagua was impeached. Remember, at one afternoon, we were called to cover a near blow between Uhuru Kenyatta and some goons and police officers who'd come to take over the party, just across the road. So finally, he finds Jubilee, he looks at it, he cherishes it and realizes, I have a platform that now I can speak and speak as a party leader of Jubilee. So all these things, he finds his voice simply because the race for 2027 is being shaped, but then again, he has a podium that if he speaks as the Jubilee party leader, and sometimes it can be said not as the retired president.
Yeah, interesting distinction. And that's the distinction we're going to come back with and talk about which way forward, because now you mentioned 2027, and there's been quite some activity around that. Parties having their national delegates meeting, people launching their presidential bids formally, and which party, are they united, are they not, who's in the pack, who's not, whom have we seen with whom, and who was notably absent when certain people were together somewhere else on the same day. It's not even 2026 yet. We'll be right back. We'll be talking about the opposition. It was interesting also that we heard earlier that Governor Gladys Wanga was saying those people who are meant to be the opposition. Okay. Okay.
Welcome to Kenya.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It's always about who's saying it, right? Yeah, and it's contrast. Okay. Let's take a break. We're back with more.